And good evening, and welcome back to the writing stream, and a warm welcome. In fact, a very, very warm welcome. In fact, a far too warm welcome from the blazing inferno, the wasteland that is the UK at the moment. Sean, you're making me feel jealous already. Greetings, 15 degrees centigrade. Oh, I wish I do. I'm not a heat person. Okay, I don't like hot. Anything over 20 is too much for me, and now we're well over 30 still, and it's like 8 p.m. So it's not good. So I do have some windows open, so there may be space birds, space squirrels, and goodness knows what. I've also got the door open, so there may be space wives and space kids and space visitors as well. So if you can hear weird stuff in the background, that'll be why. We're trying to get a bit of ventilation through the house. It's just ridiculous. It's just insanely hot. For us anyway. I mean, I know there'll be people in the other parts of the world going, what? Every time I'm going to afford it, I'm not even getting out of bed. But for us poor denizens of the UK, anything above 30 is quite uncomfortable. Our houses here, for those of you who don't know, our houses here are just not designed to shed heat. We're most of the time in the UK, the problem is trying to keep things warm, and so our houses are heavily insulated, which means that in these conditions they stay warm. Yay! Which is not good. Anyway, never mind. That's enough of me whinging. There will doubtless be more of me whinging later on, but for now, I should do the thing, because the thing is the thing. Let's do the thing. Right, who have we got tonight? Commander JR1988 is here in the chat. First thing first. Well done, Commander JR1988. Hababubu is here as well. Dr. Quest MD. The Hotgunners are here. First to invade Arrakis' desert. Haunted Loaf is here. And the Arrakis is here is good. Well, excellent. Fighting off with sweating brow the invasion of the Hotgunners. Wintermute GB is here, of course he is. ZX81 is here as well. The Shadow Wyvern is here, also good. Mad Monksoft is here, yay! I did survive LaveCon, yes. I did survive LaveCon. That was interesting. We'll talk a tiny little bit about LaveCon. That was cool. Who else we got in the chat? Sean is here, of course. Well, we've already said Sean, but well, welcome Sean from the really cold up our idyllic sounding Northlands, where it's not 30 degrees. Zyphage 5 or something. I'm not quite sure how I'm pronouncing that. Zyphage 5. Drinking lots of space. I've got water. I have got some water here. I am being vaguely sensible. Thanks for that. Yeah, so it's 33 in Havering, and 34 wherever Mad Monksoft is. It's too warm. It's just too warm. And thanks for the resubscribe there, Wintermute GB, very much appreciated. Anyway, so we're all here. It is very warm. So it's just too warm. Mad Monksoft's in Wales. So Wales, I think I'm right in understanding, if I saw the news correctly, that Wales has just recorded the hottest temperature ever in its history. I don't think we quite hit the peak here in the UK. We were like half a degree off the record. So there's always tomorrow, right? Great. The press is absolutely desperate, so it seems, from what I'm reading on these, for us to hit 40 degrees centigrade, which I really do not want to hit. But it's apparently tomorrow is going to be even hotter, and then the temperature is going to back off a bit. But the British people, we're famous for talking about the weather. And now we've really got something to complain about. But I mean, the problems that we've got here in the UK pale into insignificance compared to Southern Europe and further on down, because they're in the high 40s down there. I mean, that must be insane. That's properly dangerous. I mean, anything above 37 gets properly dangerous, because, of course, that's the temperature which your body is trying to maintain itself. Which means it's just frantically trying to cool itself down. So it's not good at all. So but yeah, Scorchio, as they say. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Chris Viking is here as well. How's the temperature up in your part of the world, Chris? Because yours is hopefully a little bit more pleasant than ours is. But anyway, it's definitely warm. So I shall be drinking. It is hot enough. Yeah, Rich. Yes, it is. It's far too hot. I don't want any more heat. I'm not a heat person. I like cool. To be frank, anything above 20 degrees centigrade is too hot for me. I don't like heat. I like sunshine, but I don't like heat. My computer, well, I am a bit. It's okay, because obviously at the moment I'm not playing a video game, so the Richard just had a cold shower. Yeah, but you have to have one of those every time you see me, Richie. Stop getting personal on the stream, my friend. So yeah, no. So I'm not, because I'm not running a game, or at least I'm not. Well, I'm not running a game. There's no but about it. So there's no real load on the PC. The streaming stuff doesn't seem to be too bad, but obviously there's still hot air being chucked out the back of the PC, which isn't helping. So if I do cut short the stream slightly because of temperature related shenanigans, either because of me or because of the PC, then you have to forgive me, but it is very warm. So far so good, it's all right. There's Med Monks off with a good. Yeah, so physician 39 to 40. I mean, that's just wrong, isn't it? So Chris Viking says it's pretty pleasant. It's been raining. It's generally pretty mild. You see, that's I just wish. I can't remember the last time it properly rained in the UK. Actually, my garden looks like something out of Mad Max at the moment. It's turning into a desert, which again does happen in the summer in the UK, but it's pretty early, to be honest. It's only the middle of June, so we'll have to see. But anyway, the weather is very hot, yeah, it's not good. There's always hot air. There's a lot of hot air on this stream. That is a fair observation. Yep, hands up for that one. So anyway, so over the weekend, so before we get into the main topic of the stream, so apologies for anybody who's wandered into the stream looking for, it is July. it's got a J in it. Give me a break with Dubuque. It's okay, July. It is mid-July. In fact, it is in the middle of summer, isn't it? It is kind of effectively, I suppose in my head, it is the middle of summer. So I suppose that's it's. That's that guy. It's truly, yeah. That's definitely the month. Sean says let's stop making us feel jealous, Sean. We had a light drizzle this morning and thunderstorm tomorrow. Oh, that sounds great. I'd love a thunderstorm right now. That'd be awesome. But there we go. Anyway, so enough about the weather. Hello, Alan. Good to see you. So apologies for anybody who's wandered in the stream looking for concise and informative advice on the topic of editing and turning drafts into proper novels. We will get there, but concise isn't something I do very well when I'm chatting away on the stream. I do concise. Apologies, my chair seems to be suffering from the heat as well. I think the fluid thing in it is melted slightly. It's slowly sinking. So every 5 minutes or so, if you watch this on fast forward, you're going to see me doing it. Verbose means the same as concise. Well, yes. I'm recovering from the FDev event at LaveCon. Well. Dare I say anything about the LaveCon? I mean, LaveCon was fun. Okay, LaveCon was fun. It was good to go and see some people. It was the first convention I've done for 3 years, actually. So because I knew roughly what to expect at LaveCon, because I've been there probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 times. I can't remember now. I knew what to expect. I thought it'd be a nice, gentle way of getting back into the whole convention thing, and seeing if I can remember how stuff works and meeting people and talking to people. Because I haven't been to anything with so many people in ages. It was a bit weird, actually. You kind of had to reconfigure yourself to go, I've got to talk to actual real people. So it was a little bit weird, but I kind of got over that fairly quickly. I hope I didn't act too weird to some of the people I met, and some people on the stream tonight were there, so we can compare notes here. Like, I shan't out you unless you wish to say. So it's up to you in the chat. So it was good. I sold quite a few books, actually, so I was quite pleased with that. So that from that perspective, it was really, really good. I had some good chats with people. Played Artemis with my son, and I ended up being the captain of the ship. And we died a horrible death the first time, and then the second time round we were quite good. So that was good fun. Lots of retro games to play, so that was good. And hats off to Stephen Usher, who is occasionally in the chat. Who put and some of the other guys who put together a fantastic collection of retro games, which did allow me to indulge, absolutely slaughtering my 18-year-old son Josh at a few of them. Yes, one of the adults. So that was good. Though he beat me on some of the others, and he actually killed me on chess as well. We had 2 games of chess. I won one, he won the other one. So we were quite evenly matched. So from that perspective, Frontier had provided a free bar with obvious results. On the Saturday evening, so that was good. I was very restrained. I did have a gin and tonic, So so that was all good. Yeah, from that perspective, it was really, really good. It was really good, and fair play to the organisers. They had to cope with the venue change. It's post-COVID, but still COVID's about. All those sort of things. So they did a fantastic job of keeping everything running and all together. I thought they did pretty well overall. The the FDev event was very different to previous ones because, of course, what was noticeably different this year compared to previous years is they didn't have anything to announce. I mean, and they'd been very upfront about the fact that they didn't have anything to announce in advance of LaveCon. But in previous LaveCons, they've announced stuff, quite big stuff, new ships and new capabilities and other stuff that's coming. And they've in past things they've had a video message from David Braben and sort of stuff. So I mean, it's kind of the only elite dangerous convention there is. So it's kind of the yearly showcase for all things Elite Dangerous, and it was, to me, it was kind of like, well, it was surprising. I mean, it's entirely up to them what they do talk about, what they don't talk about. But it was a bit surprising to me that they basically didn't have anything. They brought a lot of devs along. It was nice for them to all come along, but they were sort of reminiscing on how things had kind of gone. It was a bit odd to me. I would thought they would have. I mean, and maybe their hands are tied in terms of what they can talk about and what they can't talk about, which definitely seems to be the case. But it was a big contrast to previous LaveCons where the FDev piece of LaveCon is the big draw, and it still was, because it's the only part of the convention where everybody basically piles into the main room to listen. But it was really more of their sort of live streamy stuff where they sort of have fun, and they gave some handouts and they talked about things that had been and stuff. So it was more like a wait for the party. No, it was all upbeat. It wasn't downbeat. It just there was that usual phrase that they do trot out, which is I find slightly embarrassing for them. The future is very exciting, but we can't talk about it. It's like, why not? So I don't know. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. Don't have to wait and see. I did say hello. And some of them said hello back. It's about as far as that went. But that, to be honest, is about as far as it's ever gone with me and the Frontier folks. So everything was good. Nobody died. Nobody got assassinated or anything like that. So it was all good. So it was fun. It was fun, but it wasn't. There was no groundbreaking anything really, I suppose. So they can't talk about anything they haven't done yet. So so they're a bit strange. But they were there. The event happened, which I suppose is good. So it just seemed a bit of a contrast to previous years when they've had things to talk about. It's good when the bar is nobody died. Yeah, nobody got assassinated. I did finally sell out. Well, actually, I donated the last copy of Elite Premonition. So that's my second Elite book, to the raffle at the end, because I had one copy left. That was literally the last copy. So I thought, well, the raffle can have that. So some lucky person in the raffle, I didn't see who took it actually, ended up with the last first edition. It's the last best hope kind of thing of Elite Premonition. So I have no Elite Premonitions left, and I've got no mechanism to get any more of them now because Frontier that won't answer my calls on that. So that's kind of it. So Elite Premonition is now, from my perspective, almost a dead book because I can't get hold of any more copies other than buying them at full retail price from Amazon. It's a bit of an odd situation to be in, that one. It's a bit of a strange one. So anyway, the a big Thargoid thing is doubtless coming up. That's there. Couldn't clearly portend that anymore. That's definitely the big thing that they've got. So be interesting to see what happens after that. But there we are, LaveCon. But it was good to see an awful lot of people I haven't seen for a while. So and met a few more people and met some people on this very stream, which was nice to meet in person. So hello to you, whoever you are. That was really good. Right, onwards. Right, so that's quarter of an hour waffle. Let's start talking about the thing that we've got to start talking about. This is kind of beginning to get towards the end of my little revisit of my writing advice stuff. So if there are other topics that I haven't covered in the last few weeks that you would like me to cover, do let me know. Tonight we're going to talk about the whole process of drafting. And I could really do with a draft now. It'd be nice if that window would oblige, but it's not. Because the air is very still. The air is very still. So, the thing is, you know, you write. You want to write a story, right? You want to write a story, but yeah, the ultimate aim, of course, presumably, is to turn that into a book. Now, there's quite a long journey from having an idea to turning it into a book, as you are doubtless aware, having watched this stream for a long time. So, the process in between having the idea and having the book, the first half of it is called writing. Okay, apologies if I'm going too fast for you here, but no. It's writing, okay? So you have to write the story. The second half of the process, which takes you to the book, is drafting, or redrafting, as it's sometimes called. The first time you do it, it's a draft. Then you have to redraft. But anyway, so you've got a story, okay, in your head, and you want to write it. Chris says writing. Okay, yeah. Jalen says slow down. WWWR. You guys are so funny. I'm glad I've got a willing audience for you're a foil for my jokes, you see. My jokes wouldn't be half as funny if you guys didn't actually react to them. So it's all your fault, you're encouraging me. Right, so yeah. Right, so you've got the story, you write it down. Now the thing is, my advice to here's a piece of sage counsel to other writers who are either starting out away and happens to be, don't get too hung up on trying to sort things out when you're writing. Now we've talked about whether you're a plotter or a pantser type writer in the past, and I'm a plotter. I like to work all the detail out in advance before I start writing. That may not apply to you, okay? It's not the only way to write a book. But regardless of whether you've planned stuff or whether you're just kind of, right, I've just got a blank page, here I go, don't get too hung up on solving all of the issues when you're telling the story, okay? A wiser man than me, I think it might have been Neil Gaiman or somebody like that, basically said I'm just trying to think, no, I don't think it was Neil Gaiman. It will come to me anyway. Basically said the first draft is you telling yourself the story, okay? I didn't know you wrote stories. So the first draft is you telling yourself the story. So it's getting the story out of your head and onto the word process, as it would be nowadays, onto the paper as it would have been. Okay, so get the story out. Okay, get the story out of your head and onto a piece of paper. It will have problems, right? You'll know it has problems. You'll instinctively know as you're writing it, oh, that doesn't feel like a very good motivation, or that's all really, really badly contrived. That piece of dialogue is awful. This bit's too short, that bit's too long, this bit's too slow, that bit's too fast, etc., etc. There will be a plethora, that's a good word, a plethora of problems with what you write, okay? But the trick is, don't get too hung up on trying to fix all of them, because that's the drafting process will help you with that, okay? The editing and all that kind of good stuff. The idea is don't try and block the flow, dare I say it, of your storytelling, imagination, creativity by imposing too many rules on it before you can get the entire story out. So get it out of your head, flaws and all, right? Because the first draft of your story will have problems, okay? There's nothing you can do about it. It's inevitable. The creative process doesn't... It wasn't Terry Pratchett, okay? I knew it was somebody famous. I had Neil Gaiman in my head for some reason. So Terry Pratchett, a writer of some renown, okay? So he knows what he's talking about, or he didn't know what he was talking about. The first draft is really telling yourself a story. Get it out of your head. The jokes, the situations, the character foibles, the arguments, all the bits and pieces that you think, that's got to be in there, that's got to be in there. Just chuck them in. Don't worry too much about fixing it, where the chapter length should be and whether or not you're in the right place and stuff. Or where the book necessarily actually ends. Sometimes the book cut-off point can be different depending on what's going on. So just get stuff out. And once you've got a decent sized piece of work to deal with, then you can start to think about what you're going to kind of do with it. So there we go. Richie says, I spend a while rewriting as I go, especially linking back scenes or foreshadowing. I think I end up with a few drafts ahead with a finished version. So, yeah, I think, dare I say it, Richie, that tends to be for more experienced writers. I tend to find myself doing that as well. But I think that comes with a bit of experience. So what I'm sort of saying here is if you're not if you haven't been doing this for a while, you may find the rewriting bit can get in your way. If you're up for it, you can go there. I'll just be a bit cautious, particularly if you're new at this. Just don't cork your juices. Don't throttle your imagination by saying, "Oh no, I've got to fix this before I start writing again." I don't think you have to do that, but it depends on your approach. If you're a bit of a perfectionist, you might want to tweak things as they're going along. And tweak. I do tend to do that now, and I didn't used to do that in the past. So. Jan on here is another good tip here. I've started to use the technique of skipping scenes I'm stuck on to keep the impetus going, and I go back and add them in. I do that as well. So if I've got a scene I think I don't fancy writing chapter 4 at the moment. Let's skip on to the next interesting bit that I'm kind of inspired by. You've got to have the enthusiasm there to get something half decent onto the keyboard. Okay, so if you are stuck on a scene, I think this is a really good suggestion. Just skip. Okay, just put an XXX or whatever it is that you put in, a TBC or this bit isn't finished marker into your text, and go on to the next bit where the next exciting thing that you're interested in at the time happens. I think proceeding onwards and not letting yourself get hung up by, I don't know how to fix that problem. Just keep writing. You may have to go back and do quite some serious editing later, but okay, just bear that in mind. Now, at the end of the process of chucking all of those ideas into a story, you will have a draft, okay, the first draft, okay. So there, at that point, you can say you've written the thing. You haven't got a book at this stage. What you've got is a rough, shapely mass of storytelling in word form. But it's a milestone, okay. So when you get to that point, you've finished telling yourself the story. You started at the beginning. Hopefully, you went through a process of making those things. And then you got to the end. You got to type the end into the draft, okay? And you've got something of a certain length that this is the story in its original form. So that's quite good. Alan says, I find that writing out a sequence or making revisions can introduce inconsistencies that can be hard to spot. Yes, I have that problem too. You do have to be aware of that. That's certainly important. Now, I'll give you a good example. I had a situation where I had some characters doing some stuff, and then the original time I wrote it, they were on their way down to the shore, and then they jumped on the big boat. Okay, let's make it nice and simple. They got on the big boat and then they sailed away. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. When I came to edit it, I put an extra scene in where one of the characters gets sidetracked, meets somebody, jumps in a smaller boat to avoid some of the travel in the main town where things are on fire, and uses the boat to go around the harbour and then rendezvous with the big boat again, and then they sail off into the sunset, blah, 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 blah. But what I forgot to do, unfortunately my wife caught this one, is that the small boat disappeared halfway through one of the scenes, and as a result it's like, where did the boat go? Okay, so you do, if you miss something or you insert something into the story that you've kind of got, I've got a great idea, you do have to make sure it plugs in at both ends, and that you suddenly aren't left with, what? Where did the boat go? Another good example is I introduced a special book, and I had to introduce this special book into the story because it was a key fundamental element to the story. But I introduced it in, I don't know, chapter 11 or something, and I'd forgotten that I'd introduced it. So when I was editing, I thought, I haven't put the book in. I need to put the book in, so I put it in chapter 9. And then when I read the draft back, I was like, hang on a minute, this book's appeared twice. And then the second time around, the character's really bizarrely bemused by the fact this book has appeared when they should already have a copy of it. So that clearly doesn't work. So there are things like that can go wrong. So you do have to be careful about writing out of sequence, because you can muck things up. And sometimes, and I think Alan's probably got slightly more subtle examples of that. Subtle examples where things go wrong, where a character maybe overhears something, and then 2 chapters later they overhear something again, and they're surprised by it, and the reader will go, hang on a minute, they already know that. Why are they surprised by it? And it's because you've written something out of sequence. So you do have to be careful about that, particularly if you're working in chronological stuff. If you're doing flashbacks and things, again, you've got to be careful that the flashback isn't too revealing for whatever it is that you're flashing back for, all those sort of stuff. So, so there's lots of complexities in there. Now, that is a problem. When you've got the first draft will have all sorts of issues, okay? So the first big problem the first draft will probably have is that it actually doesn't work as a story, because there'll be plot holes in it, there'll be things that don't join up, there'll be inconsistencies, there'll be missing scenes, various other bits and pieces. The first thing you kind of really need to do is start addressing that. Now, but before you do that, before the first thing, there's a thing you do before the first thing. My advice, when you get to the end of the first draft, when you've done your brain dump of all the story into the first cut of the book, if you like, draft one, first draft, is stop, okay? Give yourself some time off, all right? Give yourself some time off. Probably a week, maybe two, longer if you can, depending on what your schedule is, okay? Decompress from the story, because for the last probably 6 months or 4 months or however it is it takes you to write your first draft, you will be totally in the thing that you've been created, okay? Totally in it. And as a result, you'll find it very, to use a cliche, you'll find it very hard to see the wood for the trees. Glenn says, stuck in a Zoom call meeting. What are you stuck in the Zoom call meeting? Do you want me to... I can send you an urgent text, Glenn, saying there's been an editing emergency. I need to go and deal with an international crisis. We can do that. So join us when you can, Glenn. That'd be good. So Rich is right, yeah. So put some distance between yourself and the world. You kind of have to decompress. You kind of have to take yourself out of it, because when you're in it, and you're always in it, you can find it very hard to make too many allowances for the knowledge that you have intrinsically about the story, which you haven't put into the story, which the next reader who comes along is going to go, what, how, when? All those sort of questions. So if you give yourself a couple of weeks off from it, the next time you go back to it, you'll be going, who wrote this? What kind of idiot picked up a word processor and did this? This is awful. And you'll instantly start seeing the flaws. Okay, you'll instantly start seeing the flaws. Now they will range from, oh my God, I've got a massive plot hole which I need to fix, to grammar errors and dialogue errors and all the other bits and pieces, spelling. There'll be loads of spelling. Don't worry too much about grammar and spelling at this stage, because it's not important right now. The big things you need to think about in the second draft is you've got to get the story to work. Okay, so do all the characters get enough representation in the story? Does the story work without obvious plot holes as far as you can work out? Are there any kind of Deus ex machina kind of things going on in there where the good guys goes, aha, we need an XYZ, oh there's one, you don't want those sort of things in there. You need to go through it with a kind of critical director sort of an eye, in terms of the story. You need to iron out all those kind of things. Do the characters have equal time? Is there plot development? Is there character development? Does the story start? Does it end well? Are there the peaks of crisis and troughs of disillusionment and all those kind of things in there? Is the pacing right for the different scenes? So if it's an action scene, bang 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 bang, stuff's happening. If it's a more reflective scene, are the people kind of sitting back and having a chat? Is there a lower, slower pace of talking? All those kind of good things. They're important to have a look at in the second draft. What you're trying to achieve with the second draft is a book which is still littered with grammatical errors, okay, so don't worry about them. Still littered with spelling mistakes, that's absolutely fine. But the pacing and the structure of the story and the the number of times the characters appear, and do the characters have good story arcs, those sort of things are the things that you're working on at this point. At the end of the second draft, you should have a story that kind of feels like it's maturing well. Okay, there'll still be some rough edges, but it'll be a lot more structured, hugely amount superior to the first draft, and it's becoming feeling a bit more like a book. It's feeling a bit more like a story. What you'll have also done in the second draft is you're going, okay, I'm going to break that down. That's where the chapter boundaries should be, because that's a good point to hand off to the next scene, etc., etc., etc. You'll have worked through the scenes. You may have rearranged things. You'll have gone through looking for continuity errors, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of work in the second draft. The second draft, to me, is probably one of the most crucial pieces of editing, I would say, because it turns the really rough kind of raw material of the first draft into something that's approaching readability in terms of the story. So there's a lot to go through and a lot of things to check off for the second draft. Spend some time. The second draft should take you a few weeks to sort out, I would recommend. I tend to work on a year to produce a book. The first 6 months of that is writing it, the first draft, okay, because it's the first draft is a physical effort, right? You've just got to type a load of stuff. My books tend to average 120,000 words, so that's a physical amount of stuff you've got to type. Okay, so there we go. If I can average 20,000 words a month, 120,000 words in 6 months is about right. Okay, so that's the first draft. The second draft, I would say, is probably 2 months of work beyond the 6 months that you spent writing the book in the first place. That's how much time it should take as a percentage. So if you're taking longer than this or shorter than this, it's kind of percentages. 50% of it is writing the book. Okay, 50% of the work is writing the first draft. The other 50% is pretty much all the editing. Okay, so first draft, 50% of your time. Second draft, probably 20% of your time. Okay, maybe a little bit less. It's where you do an awful lot of structural edits to the book. Okay, a lot of structural edits to the book, and you fix the plot holes, you fix the pacing, you fix the continuity. All of those things have to make sense. Because what you don't really want to be doing after the second draft is any major surgery on the book. Ideally, okay, it does happen, but ideally the major surgery is the second draft. So at the end of the second draft, you're aiming for something that works well, is well structured and so on and so forth. It's got a lot of those problems kind of ironed out. Then you're on to the third draft. Okay, now this is what I tend to do, and other people. This draft requires a character transfer. Yeah, so in draft 2, for example, I have introduced a new character, or I have deleted a character, or I have amalgamated 2 characters into one. Okay, so that's major stuff happening at this stage. Beyond draft 2, I would hope that I never had to do anything that major. Okay, draft 2 is also where potentially you kill a scene, okay, because it doesn't work, or you think, actually, I'm going to need another scene in order to make that explanation happen. So you might have to write extra stuff, or you might have to cut a whole bunch of stuff. That's what's happening in the second draft, okay? So Crazy Otto, hello Drew, finally catching the stream live. Doing well apart from the heat. Yes, thank you very much, Crazy Otto, good to see you. First time chat as well, so welcome, good to see you. So first, second draft, major surgery time. Okay, at the end of the second draft, you should have something that is reasonably good. Now, for the third draft, that's when I start doing the quality pass. Okay, third draft is where I would start doing the quality pass. JR19 says here, the worst one for me was when I decided to write back in a character I had previously killed. Decided it would be better if they were alive instead. That was an absolute nightmare to put. It's quite hard to undo all that sort of stuff, isn't it? It's the little continuity errors that creep in. If you've got a character that has to do something different because you've made a mistake in the writing for whatever reason, or you've changed your mind or something, and then you've got to undo all the precursor stuff to that. That can be a lot of work. But that is what draft 2 is all about. It's fixing all that stuff and getting that character mix right. Now, for me, that's one of the reasons why I plot a lot in advance, because it does help remove some of those issues, because hopefully you identify early on that the character should stay alive rather than being killed. For those of you who know the Shadewood Saga, no spoilers for those of you who haven't written, every death in the Shadewood Saga, including right at the end, for those of you who, no spoilers for those of you who don't know what happens, but everything in all the 4 books was plotted in advance. I knew who was going to die and who was going to live before I started writing the first book, but that's my level of attention to detail. That may not be suitable for you. So I don't generally have those sort of problems. The biggest problems I have in the second draft are this scene isn't working. I really like this scene, but it doesn't add anything to the story here, so I'm going to have to cut it and leave it in my not used file. Or there's an entire missing scene here. Why has this person suddenly become like this when they were like this in the previous chapter? The continuity doesn't feel right here. I've got to add an extra scene in, so I've got to write some extra stuff. That's what usually happens to me. Or there's a plot hole, and I think, oh, hang on a minute. They wouldn't do that because they know this thing has already happened. So why would they go and stupidly go over there? Because they wouldn't. Yeah, that's crazy. Why would they do that? So I've got to either take something out to make them less knowledgeable about the situation, or I've got to justify my choice for why the rest of the story is happening like that. So it's stuff like that I tend to fall over on in the second draft. So I should go through the drafting process for my outlines because I keep changing my mind about it. It's all right. Maybe you need to let the idea percolate a bit more. I still do that, to be honest. Even the stuff I'm writing now, I'm thinking, does that work? I'm not. Yeah. So it's okay to do that. It's your writing process. But there we go. So yeah. So draft 3 then kind of becomes the quality pass for me. So at draft 3, I go into kind of full editing mode. So for those of you who watch the editing streams, and some of you will have had your work edited live on stream, in the past, you know what this is all about. So this is all the kind of, I suppose, semi-professional aspect of writing. So this is looking at your adverbs. Do you really need them? This is looking at your sentence construction. Is it correct? Yeah, have you got the right grammar in here? Are the paragraph lengths correct? Is the all that sort of stuff. Spelling mistakes clearly. Are you repeating words in too much close proximity? All those kind of bits and pieces. So there's a quality aspect here that I tend to use the third draft. Now, the other thing to note about this from a mechanical perspective, let's just talk about the mechanics of writing here. Let me take you to my most recent book, Doomdark's Revenge, which is... here we go. There we go. Where's the button? There it is. Super. There we go. Apologies for the slightly wacky background there. So here, actually I won't do that because then you won't be able to see any of the screen. So this is Doomdark's Revenge. Okay. So notice a few things. In all of my stories, there's a not used file. I write stuff that I end up cutting out and never using. Okay. Never delete it, right? Never, ever. This is a golden rule for you guys, okay? Never, ever delete anything. Okay, there's no need to nowadays because it's not like you haven't got enough floppy disk drive space, right? Like it was when I started writing, or tape space. Just stick it in a not used file. There's stuff in here that I probably will never use again, but every so often I'll go back and mine this and go, oh, maybe I can use that in a different form in something else. Every single book of mine has got a not used ... Now you don't have to do it in that way, but whatever you do, if you cut a scene from your work in progress, don't delete it, all right? Cut it, yes. Put it in a file somewhere. Just leave it on your hard disk. You may never go back there, but you never know. Okay. So notice here. So here's first draft. So my process is basically keep them in separate documents. That's just how I do it. It's not the most advanced system, but it works. There's my second draft. You can see here that I did quite a lot of work on this particular one. In a sense, I broke all of the different. This was my process here for trying to work out whether I was giving each of the kind of factions in the game the right amount of space. What I actually ended up doing to try and simplify this for myself, I took out of the draft all of the sections which related to the different races in the game, to sort of compare how much airtime, if you like, I was giving to the various different characters. Now what this showed to me was that Rothron in the second draft was way lower than anybody else. So Tarathel, who's kind of one of the main characters, was 46 kilobytes of action, way more than anybody else, other than the dwarfs for some reason. The dwarfs got a lot more airtime. Some of the other characters didn't. Rothron in particular, who is one of the lead characters in the story, was quite badly underrepresented in the story at this point. So this was actually backed up by Chris, who reviewed the draft at this stage, and he says Rothron doesn't feel like he's got enough to do. So clearly I had a structural problem with the story at this point, so I had to kind of expand Rothron's involvement. So that was a lot of stuff I was doing in the second draft. It's interesting to compare the lengths here. So notice the first draft is 586 kilobytes, right? I don't know what that is in word count, but we could actually have a look. Let's just find out. Okay, so first draft of Doom Dark's Revenge was, we'll find out in a moment. Okay, so 154,293 words. Okay, that was the first draft. The second draft of Doom Dark's Revenge, by the time I'd finished with it, was 171,000. Okay, so 15,000 words more than the first draft. So, what quite often this is relatively unusual that this happens. Okay. And the other thing, make sure you write in the document which version it is. Just trust me, it helps. Just in case you get lost, and don't edit the wrong thing. What normally happens with an edit of a first draft is the word count goes down a little bit. Okay, a little bit, yeah, generally goes down. Most of my editing, it goes down. What the second draft had shown me in this particular case is Rothron was badly underrepresented in the story, so I had to write some more Rothron scenes, which is why the word count actually went up. Yeah, it's unusual for me for it to go that way, but that's what happened. If we look at the third draft here, we'll probably find the word count isn't all that much different. It probably should have gone down a little bit, I'm hoping. Virtually, yeah, not much different. 171,000. I think it's maybe gone up by a couple of hundred words there, which will be some deletions, some additions. So not much change in word count, but a lot of tweaks to the story. But that was the kind of quality pass. Okay, that's basically how I worked it. There's no other supporting files, notice, in the third draft for me. So all the big structural stuff is happening here. Have I got, are the characters right? Yeah, I've mentioned this already. The other thing you'll notice here, there's an HTML version. What I find very useful at this stage is if you've got a Kindle or something similar, then this is a good stage to put the thing onto a Kindle and read it and see how well it works. Okay, so I have a program here which I thoroughly recommend you get hold of, which is called Calibra. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know why I said that, but there we go. So Calibra basically is a book, is a tool which is free, and you can send a nice donation, which I do every so often to this guy. It's a free tool which basically allows you to take a Word document or an HTML document and turn it into a pre-formatted ebook. Okay, and then you basically just email that or upload it to your ebook reader of choice, and you can read your book in a reader. And the physical act of opening your new novel on an e-reader does make it feel a little bit more like a book rather than a document on a word processor. And I find mentally it helps me get into the reading mode rather than the writing mode. So as I'm reading on the Kindle, things jump out to me that are wrong much more obviously than when I'm reading a Word document on the screen. It's just one of those things. So yeah, I don't know what No Man's Sky is there. It's not a novel about No Man's Sky, alas. I don't know what that is. It's probably, I'll tell you what that probably is. It's one of my videos. I tend to use the e-reader to prompt me when I'm recording. So it's not an unofficial novel, I'm afraid. I've done the same for Star Citizen, as you can see. So I convert lots of things onto the e-reader simply because it's convenient to do so. So that's a really good program for using that kind of stuff. So third draft, again, a quality pass. See if you can get the book ready for somebody else to read, because at the end of the third draft, the scary thing happens, right? The scary thing happens at the end of the third draft. The end of the third draft is when you should be in a position to allow somebody else to read your book. Okay, you heard it here first. Star Citizen, No Man's Sky. Alas, no, not at the moment. I don't think actually for No Man's Sky, I think it would be really hard to write a novel about No Man's Sky because it's so such a sort of esoteric and otherworldly sort of a game. I don't think a novel would. It'd be very. I mean, maybe you could. I haven't got any ideas at all that occur to me for a novel that would work with No Man's Sky as the background. Because I think the game tells its story so well, I don't think a novel really would add a great deal. Star Citizen, yes, because it's kind of like a gung-ho space adventure type universe. You know, it's similar to Elite in some ways. I can imagine a story in the Star Citizen. Maybe that's me, the way I try to write. But there we go. So anyway, methinks the lady doth protest too much. Well, I need IP permission to do things like that. Those are slow boats to China that take a long time. But yeah, the end of the third draft, right? The end of the third draft is when you get to put your story, hopefully in front of somebody else other than you. Okay, this is the point where you need some feedback. Okay, this is the point where you need some feedback. Is the story working? Because at this point, you as the writer will probably be convinced that it's pretty much perfect, right? Yeah, because you'll be going, yes, I fixed all those problems. Aren't I wonderful? I'm a brilliant writer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with my novel. Nobody could critique this whatsoever because it's perfect. That's one type of writer. The other type of writer will be going, no, at this point, why did I embark on this entire writing story in the first place? Because I'm utterly worthless. Nobody will ever see the light of day. I'm going to put this in a drawer and forget about it forever. Okay, it's usually one or other of those two extremes. I'm being facetious, but so it's the point at which things start to get serious, okay? Because the end of the third draft to me is the point which I'm happy for somebody else to take a look at the story. Now, this is an interesting thing depending on how you want to manage it as a writer. Now, I've got a small team of folks who will read my stories and provide useful feedback for me. Okay, now the key thing here for you as a writer is useful feedback. All right. This probably isn't. Now, my wife is an exception here because she can actually proofread and will pull out plot holes for me, and she's entirely happy to say, no, this is rubbish. You need to do it again. Okay. Usually, the advice is not to use family members for this because they will tend to say nice things about your story. Yes, it's wonderful, dear, brilliant. You don't need that at this stage. You need people who are going to point out the flaws. Okay. So trust me when I say I can find fault in anything, says Wintermute GB. You are the reader, I am the writer, I outrank you, says Richie. Exactly right, yes. There's a pecking order here, we need to be aware of that. That's wives in general, everything I do is, well, that's a fair cop, man, monks. Cheers, yes. But what you want here, you don't want any vindictive feedback. No, you're useless. Why are you doing that? What you want is genuinely constructive feedback, but that should be prepared to be harsh. Okay, so I've been assembled over the years a bunch of about 4 trusty beta readers who I have enough of a relationship with that if they feel they need to say to me, Drew, this isn't working, you need to fix this, then they will, and they're at liberty to do so, and I will take that feedback. I will grumble about it, and I will argue, and I will sulk for a bit, and then I'll grudgingly accept that they've got a point. Okay, okay. So you need to get some people like that around you at this point, if you can. This will aid you dramatically in getting a better story, because at this point, they may spot plot holes that you've not spotted. They may question your character motivations. They may give you a totally different perspective on what's happening in your story, and go, is this really what you want to say? Without waving a diversity flag too much at this point, the more diverse your group of readers can be, the better. Okay, just generally, it's going to help. It's going to help. If you can split, if you can go across genders, if you can go across ethnic groups, if you can go across ages, so much the better. Okay, now that depending on who you've got available to you, that may or may not be easy, but. I've got people on my team who, one of them is a very anal sort of sciencey type, but who will basically pick me apart on anything scientific, which is quite useful. Another one basically always focuses on the dialogue and kind of mostly the emotions of the characters and go, Drew, this is no, you can't get away with saying that. Stuff like that, and then variations on the theme. Okay, one is a complete grammar Nazi. Okay. Just is okay. It's useful for me. So having a wide range of people who will critique that, but also there's nothing wrong with a little bit of ego stroking in this point. If those people are happy to say, actually this bit's really good. This bit was like that's important as well. And Glenn's a good point from Glenn. If you can get people of other genders to review your work, it's helpful. Okay, so if you're writing, try and avoid the men writing women, women writing men kind of problem, all those sort of things. No breasting boobly down the stairs. Anything like that, okay, that needs to go. You should be beyond that already, I hope, by this stage, but just in case you aren't. But Mad Monk Stuff is quite right. You don't want, it was lovely, doesn't help you at all, okay? You need specific criticism on specific bits of the story all the way through. So if you're, a lot of people say they want to be beta readers, but they don't. What they want is a copy of the book before anybody else gets it. That's not what a beta reader is all about. A beta reader's job is basically unpaid editing. let's be honest about this. So a beta reader's job is to pull your story apart and critique it, and then give you the critique. Okay, and if they're not willing to do that, they're not really a beta reader. What you don't really want is a short kind of email going, I liked it in chapter 3 when this happened, and chapter 6 was really, really good, and the whole story seems to hang together quite well. I think it's really good, Drew. That's not useful, okay? A beta reader should be able to basically give you back an annotated version of your story, depending on how they review it, okay? Most of mine, for example, use Word, and they just do track changes and they put comments in the text, right? Which is very useful because I can have both open on both sides of the screen, one with the comments and one with the actual master copy, and then I can make the tweaks as I see fit. So that sort of stuff. Is a quizzical thigh tremble aloud? I will entirely leave that to your discretion, my friend. Do I have any beta readers who are not sci-fi fans? Yes, I do. One of them doesn't really care as long as the story's good. They occasionally will come back with, what does this mean? Is this a real thing, or am I missing something? And I have to explain, that's a so-and-so Ujima sciencey flip thing. And they go, okay, fair enough. It's tricky. It's tricky. Getting beta readers can be difficult. It's quite a lot of work. Basically what you're asking for somebody is to read 100,000 words and critique it. That's not the job of just half an hour. That's several days worth of work. So you are asking quite a bit of a beta reader, to do that. So they genuinely have to enjoy doing that sort of thing and want to help. Curate and look after your beta readers. Give them a free copy of the book at the very least, right, when it comes out. That's the absolute least you can do. Do more than the absolute least is my advice there. Take them out to dinner and buy them a pint or whatever it is. Send them a bottle of wine or whatever happens. Anything like that is a good idea. If you've got some, keep them and look after them because they are very, very handy people to have around. What you will be working on then is basically the third draft. What becomes then the fourth draft, possibly, and you sometimes can incorporate it into the third draft, but I often break it out. I don't think I did with Doom Darks in the end. I think I managed to do everything in this sort of space. I didn't have too much major surgery to do, so the third draft was tweaked slightly before it became the final draft. You might have a fourth draft at this stage if there's significant stuff that you have to deal with as a result of your beta reader feedback. You might need a fourth draft in order to incorporate that. So that'll go. That's basically the end of that process. Now that will have taken quite a while because they've got to go away and read it. It might take them 2 or 3 weeks to read it, come back with all the feedback that you need. Then you've got the job of consolidating all that, and be prepared for your beta readers to disagree. Okay, because sometimes they go, "This is totally unrealistic," and another one will go, "Really like what she said at that point. That seemed right, totally on point." You've got to take a view as the writer as to whether you think either one of them is correct. So that's good. The next stage though, so basically you've incorporated that feedback. I would then do another sweep for grammar if you can. That gives you a really, really solid, either you're at the end of the third draft or at the end of the fourth draft at this stage. And the hard part I think is getting betas to get back to you in a timely way. So you need to be upfront with the beta readers. Basically, you need to say this is what I need and by when. Because I am I'm on a schedule here. So your beta readers have to be pretty focused, hard-working types. Okay, so choose wisely. Choose wisely. Choose the cup of Christ. Now whatever it is, because it's tricky. It's tricky, and those people do have to work pretty hard for you. So so it's a valuable skill if you can find them. They are very valuable people. So that's the thing. And set how much time. If they can't do it in the time scale that you've got on your schedule, then maybe that's just not going to work out for you because you can't wait forever. But you might be prepared to wait longer if something's going to take a bit longer. So you work that into your schedule. Bear that one in mind. You're saying I should hire carpenters as beta readers. How deeply do you expect feedback from beta readers? Well, let me show you. If I can find it, one of my how detailed one of my beta readers went. I'm just trying to remember which one. I think it was Shanewood 3. That looks a bit weird. Let me just. Is that edit notes? Third draft. I'm just trying to. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen. It's not very. I'm just trying to find out what I did with the feedback. I can't find it, which is a bit annoying. I thought it was 3. Edit notes, but I think that's what I'm looking for. Sorry, no, I can't find what I'm looking for. So it definitely wasn't the last book. DocX, 3 draft, second draft. No, someone had some feedbacks. Never mind, I can't find it. Basically, one of my beta readers sent me back a colour-coded thing of all the green was grammar, red was dialogue, blue was this. It was very, very good. She was very, 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 very thorough, to the point of kind of being slightly overwhelmingly thorough. Yeah, and that depends again on who you get to do the story. So how deeply it depends on the person. So it's a shame I can't find any of them actually. Let me book 4. Just have a look under here. Maybe I just haven't kept them in here. I should really. I can show you, actually thinking about it, I can show you what Chris Wilde sent back to me in Doom Dark's Revenge, probably. That will probably make a bit of sense. Midnight Chronicles, let's see if we can find Doom Dark's Revenge. Second draft, Chris's notes, somewhere here. See, what's probably happened is I've probably got them in. What I've done here is I've probably left them in my email and not saved them in my folder structure, which is very bad of me. But not. Yeah, that's probably what I've done. So I can't put my fingers on it, which is a bit not enough for avenging. Unless I have got it in my email. Let's just have a quick look. Because it'd be useful for you to sort of see the sort of stuff I get back. I'll have to look up. I'm sure Chris won't really mind. There we go. Doom Doctor Revenge. It's in my Dropbox. That's where it is. Let me fire up my Dropbox. Hang on, apologies for the slight delay here. Yes, Chris and I sync things on Dropbox. So let me open up my Dropbox, which is in a different part of my PC. It's confusing. There we go. Okay, so here we go. Let's get the screen up. Right. Okay. So this is the Dropbox. Chris had read it on numerous occasions. So his initial comments here, you can see on the original plot that I was sharing with him, and then a second time when he did a second proofread of it. So if I look at his original comments here, what we'll see in here, I hope, if I just shrink it so it's on the screen, is Chris will have dumped some comments into the side here. So let's see if we can find the comments. There we go. Okay, so comments about the lore in this case. Icemark is the whole land. Did you mean the Frozen Empire? I've got a piece of lore wrong. Okay, might be a good place to discuss the overall effect of the moon ring. Okay, so we haven't brought the moon ring out enough in the initial setup to the book to kind of indicate to the reader what's going on. Okay, so this suggests Morkin has used the lift. I'm not even sure Sheriff has the power to trigger a journey via the lift from far across. Okay, so how does it work? Some of the magic's not consistent. Taratho has a vision. Maybe it takes away from the power of the moon ring, so we don't want to take away from that. So maybe she doesn't have a vision. We do that in a different way. We don't want to make her too powerful, etc., etc. So, okay. So here's a structural plot point. Okay, so hang on. She will invade, said Rothron. So why not invade straight away? What's stopping her from invading straight away? We need to have another reason for the Isles to delay the invasion, because otherwise the story's going to be over too quick. A good point, Chris. Things like that. So that's the sort of stuff that went through the thing. That's the sort of thought process that Chris and I had in trying to make that sort of thing work, and then we'll add various other bits. Then Chris also here sent me some general notes. So Doom Doctor Revenge, general observations on the initial draft that I sent him. Okay, so following character changes were difficult, especially at the beginning. I wonder if there needs to be something to help the reader out a little. Maybe the section break would be the graphics representing the race of the main lord who currently has the viewpoint, ? We didn't do that in the end, but Tarathel's magic increases over the course of the story. This appears to be in response to some unexplained whim of the Forest of Angrim. There needs to be a reason why that's happening. Sheriff taking Morkin messes completely with her long plan to take control of the Icemark. It's a big mistake, okay? So, slap true, don't get this wrong. By taking Morkin, she brings down for the Icemark. Okay, so it's basically what we were struggling with here is a tactical error for Sheriff to do what she does in the story as it was set out. So we had to actually tweak the lore to make it strategically sense. We never really see when and why Luxor decides to try and unite the kingdoms against Sheriff. Okay, that was a missing scene, so I had to add that in. Luxor's path through the story seems unsubstantial, so I had to do more stuff to make it fit. There we go, we talked about that one in the early draft. Rothron needs more to do. He's not doing enough in the story. Okay, I think I got the general gist of the politics, but easily lost track of who everyone was and what their motivations were. Clarify, okay. And Lorlorn's story was important. We need to elevate that. Okay, so I got that back, and so clearly there's a lot more work to do. And this was prior to a third draft, so this is sort of second draft material really, but it kind of gives you the idea of the sort of thing that you're looking for, okay, from your beta readers. I feel your character number 3 isn't doing enough. Why are they in the story when they've only got like 3 lines and they pick up a spade? What's the point? What did they do? Okay, so it's very useful for me. Chris is brilliant at this. It's always been a pleasure to work with Chris because he's not afraid of basically saying, Drew, that isn't good enough. You know, I mean, that's the class. This is very classic Chris here. Where is it? It is a big mistake, right? Okay, that's Chris for Drew. Fix this. Prothero needed more to do. Okay. Yeah, there's no arguing with that, is there? So that's really, but that's really useful as a writer, okay? Because that's clearly, you know, somebody else is looking at it going, this doesn't feel right. This feels unbalanced. This story isn't working. Okay, there's not enough. That, you know, it doesn't. The justification for that doesn't make sense. So that's ideally what you want your beta readers to be providing you with, something like that. Okay, that basically allows you to check that. So do you have a how-to help sheet for new beta readers? I don't really have a how-to sheet. No, that's a good question actually. I mean, I think if I were you, I'd be tempted to write out to them in an email or something, just what you would find helpful to have back. You know, if they're new to being a beta reader, they may not really know what you're after. So you know, so that sort of thing is very useful. You know, actually, and you know, so yeah, that sort of feedback is, I suppose, the kind of stuff that you're aiming at. If people haven't been beta readers before, you may have to explain the sort of thing you're after. But I haven't got a crib sheet, I'm afraid. That's not a bad call. I should maybe put something like that together. Chris Viking, they need a reason for X is basically one of the big problems I've had writing my current main project. Why are they doing it? Is this reason enough? Is it believable? That you can only just keep iterating yourself, Chris, until you're satisfied that it is enough of a justification. I have to say I've agonised on certain motivations of some of my characters and worried that maybe it's not convincing enough. And they've never come up as a criticism from anybody. It's funny, actually. I've spent a long time agonising over certain character motivations, thinking, "Oh, is that going to fly? Are people going to really believe that?" It's never shown up in any critique or review ever. So either I've done enough work that it wasn't a problem, or it wasn't as weak as I thought it was. People have picked up other things, and I've gone, "Oh, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that one." So it's strange, and that's why it's valuable to have multiple beta readers, because they will pick up on different things. You know, it's just one of those things that people do differently. So that's the thing. So at the end of all that, and you can see the amount of work we're talking about here. So let's just recap for a moment. First draft, writing the story, getting it out of your head. Second draft, fixing all the problems that the first draft has introduced. Okay, lots of work there. Third draft, quality check. Okay, get as much of the grammar and stuff sorted out, make it, you know, reasonable. Fourth thing is the incorporating all the beta reader feedback and making any changes. Okay, so there's quite a lot of work we're talking about there. That's several months worth of work post having finished writing the thing in the first place. That will either end you with a really good third draft or a solid fourth draft, depending on how your process works. Now at this point, what you should have is a story that works, a story that all the plot holes, at least the obvious ones, have been eradicated. The character motivations make sense. The dialogue's pretty decent. Most of the obvious grammar and spell checking issues have been dealt with. You got something that's approaching, and I say approaching, a publishable state. Okay. Now a lot of indie writers at this stage go, right, I'm done. Send it up to Amazon. All right. Okay. No, you're not there yet. At this point. This point is where the professional comes in, and I can heartily recommend this. You don't have to do this, but I thoroughly recommend that you do. Is that you go and get yourself an editor. Okay. Now a good editor will take what you got in your third or your fourth draft and polish it to a shine. Okay. And you need to pick wisely. You need an editor who gets your type of story, gets your type of storytelling. And you know is good to work with you now, and yeah, and Jan, this is a good point. Okay, so this is where the cost benefit ratio of a book is it swings badly against you, because editors aren't cheap. Okay, editors aren't cheap. What you're asking to do is this is maybe 10 times as detailed as beta reading. You're not asking them to read your book and provide commentary. You're asking them to go through every single word and every single sentence and challenge you on it. Okay, and that's what you're asking an editor to do. So an editor is going to go through at a level of detail that's way beyond anything you've experienced thus far. They're going to go through all the sentences and check for pacing, and they're going to check for sentence construction. They're going to check for all sorts of stuff. Now, at the end of that process, your book will be significantly better. Okay, it will be in hopefully a publishable state at that point. But it is a cost-benefit thing, because an editor will charge quite a lot of money to go through your book for you. Okay, so and you've ideally got to recoup that money by hopefully selling your book. Now, you can absolutely publish your book without going through a professional editor, but it all I can say really is it won't be all that good. You need, until you become very, very experienced with this, and I've had the benefit now of publishing, let's say, 10 books. I think I'm up to 10, and as a result of that, I've now seen a lot of editor feedback on my style of writing. Okay, what that means is I've acquired an awful lot of expertise as to the sort of things that editors change in what I've written. Okay, so what I can tend to do now is go through and go, yeah, an editor's going to kill me on that one, so let's fix that now. So, and in my last Doom Dark's Revenge book, the editing costs were notably lower because I didn't have some problems. So you can get good enough not to use an editor, I would say, but it's still something I would want to avail myself of if I had the chance. I think if you're new and inexperienced at this, an editor is going to be a huge help if you want someone to take your book kind of seriously. But there is a financial implication here, okay? Because an editor is going to cost you a lot of money, which will take you a long time to earn back, and may even make your book financially unviable. And that's the decision you've got to make. How seriously are you taking what you're doing? How important is the quality to you? Or are you just going to go, I'm just going to chuck it out there and see how it goes, and deal with the reviews that come back saying this thing needed a good editor? Yeah, you can't win either way. So those are the sort of things that you get. So which type of professional editing do you recommend? They have different prices for different methods. Line, copy, and development. This is tricky. I've had the best. It depends on how good your grasp of English is. So I personally find a developmental editor best, with a bit of sort of copy editing in. I personally haven't found the need for line editing too much. It depends on how good and how comfortable you are with your quality of English grammar and all those kind of things. If you feel you've got pretty sound, usage of grammar and all those bits and pieces and sentence construction, then that's okay. If you're a little bit more wary about that, you're going to have to change. So you're going to have a look at that. Maybe your beta readers will be able to help you a little bit with indications of the sort of things that you get wrong. So developmental editor, a developmental editor will look at things like pacing and plot devices and all that kind of stuff, and basically say this is potentially unrealistic. So I've used that in the past. That's been helpful. Mostly my beta readers will catch that sort of thing, so I tend to find a copy edit the most useful thing, because I'm basically at that stage just wanting to polish up the quality of the actual text by the end of it and make sure there aren't any typos and there aren't anything. They still slip through, which is weird, but those sort of things are available to you. So at the end of all that, then your editor's document comes back. Now, again, examples of this. Let me see if what's a good one. Maybe my Shadewood one is a good one here, if I can find it. Books. I should really have all this stuff organised in advance, but yeah, I think of these things along the way through. Editor feedback. Okay, that's coming in an unreadable text form. Edit notes. Here we go. Okay, so this is what I got. This is which one is this? This is Shadewood. This is Shadewood 3. Okay. So what I got back from my editor for Shadewood 3 was as follows. Okay. Edit notes. Okay, so this is again, copy editing was what I was after here. So this is through Fantastic Books Publishing. So unnecessary. The necessary backstory is well woven into the first few chapters without coming across as info dumping, and overall an excellent sequel to Exoneration. Really enjoyed it. Few comments along the way, but my only real reservations were in the previously in section and the ending. The former is easily addressed. On the latter, it's a good dramatic ending, but it's downbeat and inward looking. Okay. Further ideas on this later. I didn't find anything I thought would need a major repair. Good. However, all right. So in the actual document, it's full of stuff that needs fixing, basically red ink, track changes stuff. Okay. But a thing that I'm not very good at is consistency in my terms. So this is the thing that editors are always picking me up on historically. Now I've got better at this because I now know that here's something that I need to fix. This is quite easy to let go. So I'm not very good at hyphenating things. I'm not very good at being similar with lowercase, uppercase kind of things. Okay, so I changed the names of one of my guys, Turgan and Turgan. Okay, clearly you've got to be consistent, right? Pursed lips. So here's another thing the editors pick up. You need to check on people pursing the lips. Too many of them do it. So Ella, Maru, Van Der, Hannah, Gargoyle, Mel, Kieran, Goran. Okay, get them to do something else. Okay, so here's another one. Was sat, were sat. So two kind of passive, grammatically incorrect things that I need to fix out. And a good editor here. There are a handful of occurrences I've changed into what I think matches the context. Remember that whilst an editor will make corrections to your document, the choice for you as the writer whether to accept them or not is up to you. Okay, so you always get the final say, even if you want it to be wrong. Right, that's important. It is your choice at the end of the day. Editor's only there to recommend. Okay, so again, here's another character. Chapter 16, I found myself tripping over Ren's way of speaking. Quite like the shortened staccato style, but I don't think it's consistent throughout. Okay, so consistency is good. Lots of detail here. Some things that aren't consistent. I have marked a comment from Henoch about Zoella because I don't see how they can know anything about her at that stage. Okay, so basically there's a conversation going on here from Henoch basically about Zoella, but Henoch doesn't know who Zoella is at that point, so how's he having a conversation about her? There's things that don't seem to work. Taryen is billed as King Kongkesh's cousin, but then said to be son of his late sister, which would make him a nephew. So you've just got the the relationship's wrong. Fix it. So things like that are being pulled out. And so on and so forth. There's things wrong with various other bits and pieces as well. So here's the interesting thing. Actually, the one thing I had to change as a result here for the end of Shadewood 3. As I said before, the ending is very downbeat. Okay, so minor spoilers here if you haven't read Shadewood 3, but it's also inward looking. Zoella has become psychotic maniac. Fair enough. And Kiri is about to be horribly murdered, so this is a bit of a cliffhanger at the end. Previous books have ended on upbeat no matter how desperate the situations. Characters looking forward, not inward. I see no reason why the ending shouldn't be essentially the same, but the characters' motivations and internal logs should be slightly altered to change the tone. Would it be possible to have the obas back in the mix? Now, I thought about this because the ending of Shadewood 3 is dramatic, ends on a point with these Zoella and Kiri facing off against each other. And I ended up not taking this recommendation. Okay. All the other books have been optimistic at the end. I decided this one wasn't going to be. So I listened to the editor feedback here and decided to go my own way anyway. Okay, and that is your prerogative as a writer. Okay, that is your prerogative as a writer. So I could have changed this to basically, actually maybe there'd be some reconciliation, or maybe the book didn't end at that point. Maybe it ended at the point where Kiri escaped, which actually happened at the beginning of the second book. Okay, so it was a cliffhanger. Now it's interesting actually how people have reviewed this. So an awful lot of people liked it. Okay, really liked it. I have had some reviews basically saying no, I didn't like the cliffhanger. So it has polarised people a little bit. The ending of book 3. The editor picked up on it as a bit of an anomaly based on what else I'd written. it's an observation. It was a stylistic choice that I made for that particular one. So there we go. So again, the editor will give you all sorts of useful things, and then the actual document is full of other bits and pieces as well. So lots of work to do. Did the people didn't like it go on to read for? Yes, they did. Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, I'll see if I can find quickly the Amazon reviews. It was a relatively recent one, actually. So let's see if I can just find it, because it's the same person. I don't know who they are. It's a random person off the internet, obviously. Let's just have a look at most recent reviews. So I think it was this person, KV, whoever they are. Okay, let's see if I can see their reviews. Is it? They've read a fair bit of stuff since, actually, by the look of it. Can't find the previous reviews, which is a bit annoying. Okay, let's just go through. So in the case here, it was, sorry about this, the most recent review. There's a nice review by Alan, by the way. Thank you very much for that. Where's it gone? No, I don't want top reviews, most recent. Why is that not? It's annoying when websites don't work. Let's try that again. There we go, most recent. So, first review, this is the first book. Took me a while to get into this book. It felt more fantasy focused, my preferred genre was sci-fi, but the characters and plot are compelling, and gradually I became totally absorbed. Great, quite happy with that. Okay, so then we go on to Exoneration, which is the second book. And I think I'm right in saying the same person gave me a review of each one. Maybe I'm not correct. Oh, here we are. Here it is, KB. There we go. Strong second book. Okay, strong second book. Strong second book within the series. I read all four back to back. Great as well. Great characters and storylines and plenty of heart-in-mouth moments. Okay, so second book doing well. Third book. Okay, so Innovation is the third book. This is when it shows up actually. So most recent KV. There we go. Okay, got 4 stars this time. This one has a star knocked off my score, as I really hate books that finish with TV soap style cliffhanger at the end of the book. This isn't Dallas. That disappointment aside, it's a decent third book within the series. Great characters and storylines and plenty of heart-in-mouth moments. So they didn't like the cliffhanger, which is quite interesting. But if we go on to the final book, they did make it, which is good to know. We go on to the final book. I'm pretty sure in here. There we are, KB. Strong last book to the series with satisfying wrap up of the various arcs of the story. So, okay, I made it in the end. But it's just interesting to me is the stylistic choice I made. I was happy with it as the writer. Okay. The editor called it out as a potential issue because your editor is basically saying, here's things that might trip up readers. Okay, here's things that might trip up some of your readers, and they were exactly right. Some of my readers didn't like that ending. Okay, so it's a perfectly valid warning to give me, the writer, because the editor was exactly right. This ending's not consistent with everything else you've done. It's your choice, Drew, but there we go. So that particular person docked me a star because of the ending. All right. So there we go. It's not Dallas, Drew. Exactly. There we are. So in the series, I don't mind cliffhangers as long as I can get the next book pronto, says Madbox. Well, yes, yeah, that's true as well. I don't like cliffhangers at the end of the first book of a series because then it feels like a marketing move. But when you're 3 books in, I don't mind. So so there we are. But bear in mind, those are the sort of things that readers and editors are thinking about in terms of what you get. So, the other flip side of that is you can't please all the people all the time, right? So it doesn't matter what ending you come up with. Somebody somewhere won't like it. So and amazing, you get a 1-star rating. Yeah. So I mean, you know, yeah. Don't get upset by 1-star ratings, because 1-star ratings are like the dislike button on YouTube, right? You will get them just because. I mean, what have I got? Expiation. So have I got actually a 1-star? Okay, so my overall, yeah. So somebody somewhere, look, somebody's give me a 1-star review. Let's have a look at that just for a laugh. Okay, I think it's only a rating. So this is as far as I'm concerned, a 1-star rating without a comment is just somebody trolling me, right? So I just, yeah, it's like whatever. If somebody's actually written, in fact, this one, none of the 4-star reviews there, I don't. All the actual reviews have got decent things in it. So I think the only ones that have got proper 1-star reviews are probably my Elite novels. Let's have a look at Elite Reclamation. It's got quite a few reviews. Let's have a look at 1-star reviews. Okay, so here we go. From Andy, whoever Andy is, right? Even if you come to this expecting little from a Thai novel, you'll be disappointed. It's pretty harsh, isn't it? Clunky style, unconvincing dialogue, and a plot constructed possibly randomly from a list of sci-fi fantasy cliches. Even if you come to this expecting little from a novel, you'll be disappointed. I mean, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? But hey. You will get a 1-star review at some point. This is mine. This was Elite. This is Reclamation. This is my first Elite novel. So a more useful critical review. Okay, a more useful critical review here is from Dash. Okay, brings like, I'm assuming he means bring life to the Elite Dangerous game, but features unlikable characters and a dull plot. Okay, so I have to give a big thumbs up to Drew for bringing a little life and much needed story to the Elite Dangerous game universe. Without it, the game can feel a bit empty. This book really helps to stoke the imagination. So yeah, this is a good review. It references places inside the game, and developers have also included some of the mysteries in the book too. I found Drew's writing style a little awkward, and whilst not requiring a high reading level, it felt difficult to read sometimes. I think that's good or bad, actually. The story held itself together well enough, and I was interested enough to read it through to the end. Some of the scenes painted with a touch on the graphic side, fair comment, which seems to be common in sci-fi, but I find completely unnecessary. So probably didn't quite gel with my style of storytelling. Very little of substance happens in the plot. It's more following the antics of a thoroughly unlikable protagonist. Drew wrote the book well enough that you find yourself rooting for somebody you would never want to cross paths with in your life. There was enough of a storyline to continue some events in game. If you really want to get more involved in computer games, this is a must read, but otherwise it's not that enjoyable. That's a fair review, I feel. It's not a great review, but it's a fair review. Let's have a look. Is there only 2 stars? Okay, so 2-star reviews, alright. A tough slog. I really have just not put this on the screen for you, sorry. Loved the Elite game as a kid, was excited to read this book given the very positive reviews. Unfortunately, it didn't live up to the hype. Sorry guys. The plot was turgid, the characters soulless, and the whole thing read like a bad patchwork of other sci-fi novels. Tried to stick with the book and get into it, gave up halfway through. Oh dear. And another one, quite a few actually, 3 2-star reviews, there we go. For ED players who don't read lots of science fiction, it just insults both me and the ED community. Nice one. Drew seems like Drew really seems to be a likeable guy. Based on his availability and his regular engagement with the community. I sometimes get the impression that everyone who plays the game absolutely loves this book, but I really didn't like it. Fair enough. Not worth reading, don't waste your time. It's like, hey. Okay, so those are all the bad reviews. Now, I'm happy to show, as you can see here, that the vast majority of my reviews are 5 and 4 star for Elite Reclamation. But no matter how good you think your book is, some people won't like it. Okay, it's just is. All right. So Spree 18. Oh, sorry, Spree 18. I just missed that. First time chat from Spree 18. I want to buy your Elite novels. How many have you written? I've written 2. You can find them both on Amazon if you literally type in Drew Wager Elite Dangerous. That is the fastest way to find them. There they both are. So feel free. Thank you very much, Spree, if you're willing to buy them. That's really, really good. They are relatively old now compared to Elite Dangerous. The first book was done in 2015, as you can see, and the other one was done in 2017. So they're kind of ancient lore now, but they are still official elite dangerous novels. So there we go. So there you go. You will get tough reviews. I'm afraid it's just one of those things. I mean, the book I think is my best work today is Expiation, the fourth book in the Shadewood saga. So let's just see what the quality of So here, what's interesting here is I've had a 1-star rating. Now Amazon introduced this relatively recently in the last year or two, where you can rate a book of stars out of 5. i.e. 5 is good, 1 is bad, but you don't have to give a comment anymore. So now you can give somebody a 1-star review and not not even type anything. So my 1-star review has no comments. My 3-star review has no comments, and my 4-star review doesn't have any comments either. So the only comments I've got that I've actually got some feedback on are all 5-star. So I'm kind of happy with that. I feel the rating system is easy to abuse for people who just want to troll you, and I've had a few other author friends who basically found themselves just on the receding end of a 1-star because someone's just trolling them. It's the same with on YouTube. People just press the dislike button because they can. So I don't think this rating system is particularly good. I think you should be forced to write a comment of a certain length if you're going to review a book. But then, of course, what happens is nobody reviews anything. So I don't know. It's a tough one. But what that basically means is if you look, all the text reviews of Shadewood Expiation are 5-star. Fine, that's great. But I've only got a 4.7 out of 10 because some people have, or 3 people in this case, have left me non-5-star reviews but not offered any commentary at all. I don't know how useful that is to Amazon or to me, but that's just it's just the way it works. How important are reviews? Well, they are very important, or not very important, depending on how you look at it. The more reviews you have, the more likely your book is going to pick up the algorithm, which is important for sales. But it's a tough one. So pursue more reviews, but don't get too worried about the reviews. I think is the thing on there. You can get very obsessed about reviews. That can be a problem. But yeah, I mean, I've had some of my books critiqued. I mean, I've got one review. I think it's Shadewood 2 somewhere in there. I'll have to dig it out. Which says Shadewood Expiation. Book turned up late. 1 star. It's like, that's not my fault. It's like, why am I, the writer, getting penalised with a 1-star review because Amazon failed to deliver on time? Yes. But of course, from the reader's perspective, it's the overall experience of buying the book. I guess. I mean, and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, there's nothing you can do about it. Some people out there are just genuinely weird as well. So you've got to bear that in mind as well. So bear that in mind. So. Anyway, so the purpose of this stream, we've gone from writing it to getting it ready for publication. Okay, so at the end of all the stages we've been talking about, your book will be still a Word document at this stage, and then it's ready to go on to the final stage, okay, where it will actually become a book. A postal delivery man scowled at me when he delivered your book. 1 star. Didn't like the postman. Dog ate it. Packaging was damp because of the rain. Who knows what's going wrong? So now we've got a really good Word document at the end of all this. Then we have to do the next bit. Now, how that happens depends on how you're going to publish. So we'll do that in an upcoming stream and see how it goes. Now, I'm not sure, I'm afraid, my friends, whether I'll be streaming next week or the week after at the moment. It's my wife's 50th birthday coming up at the end of the month, and we are taking some time off to celebrate that. So streaming schedule is a little bit flaky at the moment. But I will advise a few days in advance, so to sort of set expectations. So apologies if I'm off air. But we obviously will be back, but the summer gets a little bit fraught. We've got quite a lot of birthdays coming up, and my youngest son is off to university fairly soon. So lots of stuff is happening in Wagar Towers. So apologies if the streaming becomes a little bit erratic. I will advise. I know in particular my retro stream is being badly affected at the moment because all my weekends are taken up with doing in real life stuff. So apologies for fans of the retro stream. It will be back, but it's being subverted. And some of my weekday streams also, as a result of holidays and various other bits and pieces are going on. But we will prevail. They will come back, and they will become back regularly. But over the summer, things tend to get a little bit disrupted. So I will stream as often as I can. As you should, Drew, says Sean. She who must be obeyed has to come first. Indeed. So yeah, we're deep in planning for that kind of stuff. So don't apologise for living. No, I mean life has to be lived, right? I mean you guys are part of it, which is all good. But not a good time to mention No Man's Sky. No, so I might. I know there's one coming again. I mean, how do those guys do it? They're just insanely productive. So I hope it's not another expedition. I don't think I could go for that. We will see. I was enjoying my very, very chilled stream. We'll do some more chilled stream, I think, on Thursday. Anything chilled will be good at the moment. But there we go. So hopefully that was useful to everybody. Thank you all for turning up. Good to meet some of you at LaveCon. So those of you who are there, I see you again. And hopefully we'll see you soon. And I hope you found that useful this evening, a little bit of drafting experience. It was all good fun. Take care, my friends. I will see you anon. Look after yourselves. Stay as cool as you can if you're in the UK. Watch out. Keep yourself hydrated, etc. Be good. Take care. And as always, right on, my friends. See you soon. Be good. Bye-bye now.